What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Jenks Island podcast. We're going to be doing a Who Dat breakdown episode with my good friend, Ethan Sturbis. Haven't talked to him in a long time, so it's going to be a really great time breaking down some Saints news. So for everyone that's not a Saints fan, you can still tune in if you want to listen to some nice Saints needs and Saints preseason breakdown, but hopefully a lot more Saints fans can be tuning into this one. In today's episode, we're going to break down basically our new head coaching staff, the needs that we still have, how free agency has gone. We've re-signed a few people. We're going to break down the combine because Ethan lives near Indianapolis for college, and he actually went to the combine, saw a lot, and we'll be breaking that down as well, and then giving a mock draft towards the end. So starting right off, the Saints, new head coaching staff, almost top to bottom. There's a couple guys that stayed. Obviously, new head coach Kellen Moore, offensive coordinator Doug Nussmeier, and defensive coordinator Brandon Staley. A little bit of a swap around for Staley and Moore, head coach to coordinator situation there. Ethan, what are your thoughts on the new head coaches? You think they'll kind of be able to turn the boat around, things like that?
I think their main job is to get us back on track and not make us so much of an embarrassing team. Like, I kind of see this as like shooting for the middle. I don't see Kellen Moore being our head coach for like the next decade or so. And also there's kind of some weird vibes. Like, I don't know, like if I was your boss and then we both got fired and then turned around and then you were my boss, I feel like him and Brandon Staley, I feel like that's a little bit awkward, but that's just me. Like, I feel like our position coaches, like someone that stood out to me is our defensive pass game coordinator, Terry Joseph. We'll get more into the draft side of things later, but he was the defensive pass game coordinator and the secondary coach for Texas. So that may be giving us some hints there as to who the Saints may be taking in second or third round. But overall, I'm feeling like okay about it. I've kind of just learned to roll with the punches as a Saints fan and kind of like take the waves on. But, we just got to shoot for the middle at this point, get the train back on track.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% agree with you, because I think like a lot of people are thinking that, yeah, Kellen Moore is here to turn the team to a Super Bowl contender right away or like turn it around really quickly. And I just don't see that happening either. I think that's kind of like he could turn the culture around, set us back on the right path. Maybe for a few years he'll be here. I don't see him as the long-term head coach. We'll see kind of how that runs its course. But like you said, like they talked to Brandon Staley a couple of days ago, and they were asking him, what's it like being below a guy that you used to be the head coach for, or like coordinator head coach situation? He was like, it's not bad. There's a few moments where if he has questions, he can just ask me kind of how to manage it. And I'm like, to me, that just seems like a very weird thing where he could still feel like he has power over the head coach, kind of like a power dynamic issue there, which could arise during like a season if like the guys start to not like Kellen Moore or something like that. You would see some sort of turmoil. But I mean, we'll see how that plays out in the regular season, because right now there's really no clue how that could possibly happen as at this point in this preseason. Moving on. Sorry, you can go ahead.
Sorry. Another thing is like, I thought it was a good thing that they're bringing in Scott Linehan, who's also a former head coach. If you don't like go back and look at his 3-13 season with the Rams, like you're just like, oh, former head coach, that's not Brandon Staley. Like, you can talk to someone that you didn't get fired with. I feel like that's a bit of a plus as well. I'm trying to sort of talk myself into things here, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I like the coaching staff that they built a lot. Like a lot of different guys have a really wide range of backgrounds. Like you said, there's former head coaches, and then there's also some college coaches coming in on the defensive side that provides a different like view on things, whether that be the play style that they want the defense to play with, or like the play calling, things like that. Just kind of how you're coaching these guys up, because I think they're going to try to go the younger route with a lot of these defensive players, because like we all know, they're all vets at this point in time. For the majority of our star players, they're all older guys on their way out. So you got to get younger guys in there, and these college coaches coming in, kind of developing them at the same time. That would be a really good connection on the coaching side.
I totally agree. This is a super important bridge period for us. I feel like we need to get younger on the defense, and really it's just the mentoring there from the players more than it is like the coaching, really. I think that's going to be the most important, because you can replace a scheme, but if you're teaching players, like young players, everything that Demario Davis knows, everything that Tyrann Mathieu knows, everything that new addition Justin Reed knows, I feel like that's incredibly valuable.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And so, like you said, these new additions kind of coming back to or moving on to free agency here. We got Justin Reed, a safety from the Chiefs. We got Isaac Yiadom reuniting with the Saints after a year, or I think it might have been, yeah, I think just a year in the 49ers uniform. Devon Godshaw, we just traded for him from the Patriots. Jack Stoll, who played for the Eagles and the Dolphins last season, is kind of a just a pure blocking tight end. So I kind of like that addition. It'll work under Kellen Moore. And then Will Clapp is back as well. And then we
I did not see
extended.
that Will Clapp is back.
Yeah, it happened today. It was like it's like a
Nice.
1 year deal. It's really cheap deal. But yeah, I knew like a lot of people would just be like, nice when we saw that Will Clapp.
That's actually not too bad. I don't hate that at all. Like he could stay at left guard if you need, but like
exactly.
Salavery's probably going to take that spot if we don't draft someone. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see what they do with Saldivari, but I think Will Clapp could be a really good depth piece in that room, nonetheless. We extended Chase Young, Dante Pettis, Nephew Sewell, Nathan Shepard, and Juwan Johnson, and we lost Paulson Adebo, Will Harris, Peyton Turner, and MVS. Now, I want to ask you really quick, Ethan, what out of those 4 lost players, which one would you say you think had the biggest impact, or will have the biggest impact on being lost?
Well, it kind of depends on who we draft. If we don't, just the team as it is right now, I'd probably say Paulson and Debo. Mm-hmm. I feel like he just set the tone on the back end, which is something I'm always looking for in a DB, right? And obviously you have Alante to do that, but it helps to have more than one guy, right? And honestly, I think it's a pretty good fit with the Giants, and I'm kind of sneakily a little bought in on what the Giants are building on defense over there. Very cautiously. But yeah, I think it's Paulson Adebo.
Yeah, no, I got to agree. I think Paulson Adebo, like you said, although like a lot of Saints fans gave him a lot of shit, right? We were talking about PIs, holding, things like that. He did get a good amount of penalties. The thing with that is he was probably responsible for most of our turnovers on the defensive side of the ball for the last couple of seasons. He was getting all.
It comes with the territory.
Yeah, he's playing physically and going for the ball early or timing it just perfectly, and so those penalties kind of come with that. And like you said, it kind of changed the way that he was viewed. Every single game, you would see a penalty, and everyone's like, "Oh, we gotta get rid of him." And then the next play, he'd get a pick, and everyone's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, we can actually work with him." Will Harris,
like those close coverage corners, like we see that all the time. Like Carlton Davis was getting shit on like midway through the season, and now he's getting a lot of money. It's funny how that works, but
yeah, exactly. It's like it's a double-sided coin at that point. Like you just gotta it comes with it. Will Harris, another big. I would say not a huge loss because we got Justin Reed, but to me, it felt like he was one of the more physical and actually like someone that played with a really great mentality every single play. It felt like every single game he was always bringing his fullest amount of energy, and he was like responsible for like some of the biggest hits last season on the defensive side of the ball, which I like seeing as well. But like we already said, Justin Reed got added in there, so I like that addition. Chase Young brought back on a 3-year, $51 million up to $57 million deal. What are your thoughts on that? I know a lot of people were saying Chase Young's not worth bringing back, especially for a decent amount of money. But if you look at the defensive end salaries right now, he's getting less than half of the number one paid defensive end in Myles Garrett. So what are your thoughts on his contract?
Yeah, so I really don't hate it at all. The source that I was looking at didn't show the full guarantees. But if there's a potential out after 2 years, I think that'd be even more of a W for the Saints. He's still only 25. It's a relatively cost-controlled shot on young talent on an aging, expensive roster. This guy was a top 2 pick. I know what sunk cost fallacy is, but still he's a top 2 pick. But yeah, I feel like it's kind of just the kind of move that we needed. And it kind of frees us up to do some more things in the draft in future years where we can say, okay, this is not that glaring of a need. Like, sure, you probably don't want Chase Young and Cameron Jordan on your roster for the next 5 years, and you're going to be set at edge. But it's enough of a hole filler where you can just say, like, hey, we can be comfortable drafting something else.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think like Chase Young, Granderson and Jordan like for the next year, maybe two. Like that's not a terrible. Like you're all right with it. You obviously, I feel like they're going to draft someone maybe in this draft or the next year's draft, but it doesn't have to be like a top round guy like it could have been if they did lose Chase Young. So I think it's a good addition. And then the second guy that I want to talk about being brought back is Juwan Johnson, 3 years, $30 million. He's been getting a lot of hate from Saints fans over the last couple of years, even though he did lead the team in receiving yards this past season. So what are your thoughts on him coming back? Do you think he could possibly turn it around over the next few seasons, or do you think that was kind of worth moving on from this offseason?
I honestly thought he was gone. I thought he was going straight to the Broncos, ship him off to Denver, probably never see him again. But this like really doesn't move the needle for me at all. It's just another okay type of move from the Saints. Nothing much to say about it really. I mean, I like him as a player. I know a lot of people don't, but that's just me.
Yeah, no, I see where you're coming from. I think like with him, it's kind of he's hit or miss every single game because sometimes he'll have a game where he has 80 yards and like 5 catches, and then others he'll just completely not show up at all. So you're like, where's the consistency? But maybe Kellen Moore has a good vision for him, and maybe we'll see that this season. And I could still see them picking a tight end later in this draft, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So as far as that goes, I kind of want to go into with this coaching staff and after free agency so far, is this team in hell or is it kind of in that range of mid and just kind of in a bad spot? Because right now, if you haven't known, or if for those listeners that aren't familiar with the podcast, my other two friends, Ty and Hammer, we discuss it all the time. The Saints are in hell or if we're just a bad team. Because to me, I think we're just a bad kind of middle of the pack team because we won 5 games last year, probably would have won 9 if everyone was healthy. And then this season, they're trying to run it back. And I think they'll win another maybe 9, possibly 10 games in a week NFC South. So I want to hear your thoughts, Ethan. Is this team in hell or is it not?
This team is not in hell. As you said, this team is in purgatory, which is worse. We're never going to be, I don't think we're going to be picking top 3 next year. I don't think we're going to be making the playoffs next year. This is kind of just get the train back on the track sort of deal for the Saints for the next 5 years or so. Because you've been kicking the can down the road financially for since Drew Brees was in his later years, and now we're seeing that play out. Like Marshawn Lattimore is still on our books. Michael Thomas is still on our books, making what is it, like 10 mil against the cap next year?
Yeah, he's making a little bit.
Yeah. So, we're in purgatory. I wouldn't say we're in hell.
Yeah, I like that response because it's not like because there are teams in hell like the Browns, possibly the Giants. The Giants are kind of like with free agency right now. They're trying to move in the right direction. There's like and maybe the Raiders too might be moving out of that range a little bit. But I think like the Saints, like I already said, like I just could see them. They're a team that could be middle of the pack next year, and at some point that could be worse than hell itself. And another quick thing is, would you rather be in this sort of position or would you rather be like the Steelers where you know they're going to make it to the playoffs every single season, but just not do anything? So I just want to ask,
Steelers.
Okay. Cause there's some fans I've seen them like on Twitter threads of like Steelers fans that are like, we're just going to go to the playoffs next year and lose. So it's pointless. And I'm like, I'm sitting here as a Saints fan. I'm like, dude, I would gladly.
We're in the same situation, except we don't make the playoffs.
Yeah. So it's like everyone ends up on the bench one way or another if you're not in the Super Bowl, right? So you want to make it to the playoffs at least so you have something to look forward to and root on for even an extra couple of weeks as a fan. These fans that are cheering on the downfall of teams just doesn't make sense to me. I always want to be in the playoffs no matter what. Even last season, if we ended up somehow scraping it together with Darren Rizzi, I was like, I still want to go to the playoffs just because like it is the playoffs. Like you want to be able to make it in there, even for the guys on the team, like the old vets, they're still fighting for rings. You want to see them try to make it to the playoffs. So that's
Steelers fans.
That's my thoughts.
We had Dennis Allen and you have Mike Tomlin. We are not the same.
Exactly. Nowhere close. Moving on from that, we're going to go. Yeah, no, Tomlin, Dennis, I mean, it is a crazy comparison, but moving on from that, we got our needs for the NFL draft coming up with still, obviously we have a few more weeks of free agency they could sign some under the radar players and that could pan out like Will Harris did last season. They always end up doing that one way or another. But going into the draft, as of right now, I have a few needs on both sides of the ball. On offense, I would say receiver, guard, and tight end. And I know like some people are saying running back. I wouldn't say it's as glaring as a need as some people are saying. I think we'll go a running back in the draft, but right now, like you could say, we have Kamara, we have Kendrick Miller when he's healthy, and you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So like you have running backs on that team. You don't desperately need one. Whereas receiver, I think you really need a receiver one. I think tight end, you kind of need a guy that can do everything. Whereas Juwan Johnson's a pass catcher. Foster Moreau is injured, so I don't know necessarily when he's going to come back in the regular season. And then we get like Jack Stoll and Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is a do-it-all guy, but he's not really a tight end. Like that's not. He's a flex. And then Jack Stoll is a blocker. So you kind of want a do-it-all guy, maybe like Tyler Warren, someone like that. Defensive side of the ball, I got cornerback, defensive end, defensive interior, and then linebacker and safety. So it's kind of like every position basically. Which is like a lot of people are talking about because it's older. Like we have an older side of the ball in defense. We just got to start getting some youth in there at every position if possible. So I want to hear your thoughts on that and what are your needs for this team?
Yeah. So I would just go like offense to defense. I totally agree with the wide receiver. I mean, I'm looking at our picks right now. We got 1, 2, 3. We got 2 3s, 2 4s, and a 6.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably take receiver in that 2-3 range. But the thing about that is you have like a litmus test in Derek Carr if we stick with him this year, because if you're talented at wide receiver and you can't do anything with Derek Carr is good enough to get you there at least a little bit.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to tell, right? So I think taking a shot on like a mid-round guy for wide receiver totally makes sense. Running back, I also agree. I'm not like a huge Kendrick Miller fan, to be honest. So I think like this running back class is so deep that we can take a guy round 6 and he can be, let's just say he's like a third down contributor, like a bruiser, right?
Exactly.
So I think we could take that as well. Yeah, tight end just kind of is what it is. I mean, if you like collect all of our tight ends together, they're like all right. Like they can each do a little bit of everything, but we don't have that one guy who can do everything. I actually don't think I would take a tight end in this class, particularly for us, just because we can play different guys in different situations if we really need to. But yeah, and then everything on the defense, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, like edge is pretty good this year. Defensive interior is pretty good. I mean, we got Devon Gottschall. He's basically just like plugs another hole in the boat, right?
Yep.
He's just like nose tackle, going to eat up the run. It's pretty much it. He's like, okay, we don't have to absolutely take an interior defensive lineman in the first 2 rounds, right? Really, what I would do is just take like, I mean, all these guys are young, but like young athletic guys in the secondary that are being mentored by Justin Reed and Matthew. Like there's pretty much no better situation for you if you're a young DB, super raw, super athletic, than to be mentored by those guys.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think like the safety room, you get a safety in round 2 or 3 because this is a pretty good safety class. So if you get a guy like that, you can kind of coach him up for the next couple of years and pair him up with Jordan Howden, who's had a couple of plays where he looks solid, and we don't know fully what he is yet, but they could be a duo in the future. And then at corner, I think we should definitely go after a young corner with Isaac Yiadom, Alante Taylor, and Kool-Aid McKinstry kind of being the only 3 that are available at this moment in time. You draft a corner that could be a starter, and then Isaac Yiadom as the backup, and then move Alante into slot because he was playing it at. I was saying he was playing an all-pro level when he was at slot, or at nickel.
Oh, I don't disagree.
And like a lot of people were like, "Oh, you're crazy." And I'm like, "It's just Saints bias." And I'm like, if you watch the tape, he was killing it on blitzes and in the run game. He was doing really, really well. So I was very promising. They moved him to outside, and then it was not promising. I did not like him playing outside on the corner position. It wasn't pretty.
I feel like the classic Saints line is if you watch the tape, because a lot of these guys, like national media doesn't cover us. No one's talking about Alante Taylor on national media, but that guy was playing incredible football. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Ever since Drew left, it's like the media does not care. Alvin Kamara will get a few highlights here and there because he's Alvin Kamara, but that's about it. Yeah, they're not talking
and
about
you'll get
anyone else.
your annual Taysom Hill blow up fantasy game.
Yeah. Yeah. Like against like the Seahawks 2 years ago and the Browns this year. Like those are, that'll be it. And then they'll move on from the Saints forever. Anyways, so moving on from those needs, we got the combine standouts or guys to look out for the Saints in this NFL draft. And you were someone that was lucky enough to go to the combine as someone that lives close. And so what were your kind of biggest takeaways from going to the combine, and what was the atmosphere like at the combine as well?
Yeah, so like you said, I live kind of close. I live about an hour away. I go to Purdue, and I regrettably live in the middle of nowhere, Indiana. So it's pretty close to Indianapolis, about an hour drive. Went down there. I went there Thursday and I went there Saturday. So Thursday was defensive line and linebackers, and then Saturday was the big day where everyone's there: quarterback, running back, wide receiver. And Thursday, I am not joking you, like probably 5 to 10% of the attendance that there was on Saturday. And I was sitting, I got pretty good seats. And really it's kind of odd. Like half the people there like aren't even watching really. They're like doing a crossword or like reading a book on their Kindle. And I'm just like,
why you here?
I was a little confused, but like the other half like on their phones, tracking everything, like just super into it. And you can tell like probably just drag the wife along for some of these guys. You know?
Yes.
But yeah, just seeing that. And then like when people were, or the defensive line and linebackers Thursday, when they were running their 40s, like I could be talking to you like this and we could be in the stands and they could be down there and hear it. And we're 120, 130 yards away from these guys. And it's just so weird to see. And you can see every one of the teams up in the press boxes. I think I counted there were like 18 press boxes filled with teams there. I'm not sure why 18. There were no like other press boxes with like the labels of the teams out front.
Interesting.
And they had one for the Rams, which they haven't sent anyone to the combine in the past couple of years. So it was just like a dark box. It was pretty funny. Why did you reserve a space for them? But yeah, seeing them and like, you know, I'm a 170-pound, 5'10" on a good day white dude, and like these guys are like not human.
Yeah.
Like some of the guys that I saw on Thursday, insane. I was texting you about Shamar Stewart. That guy's a different species for sure. Let me pull him up. I think he had a 10 RAS, which is relative athletic score. I think it's Kent Lee Platt, Math Bomb on Twitter. This guy, let me pull him up real quick because I think he had a 10-10 broad. 6'5", 267, was playing probably around like 280 in season, which he played good against the run. But like dropping on 267, he's probably trying to get drafted as a pass rusher. And I think the Saints could really take him at 9. I think he'd be a great fit there. Dude is just absolutely built in a lab. 10-10 broad, 158 10-yard split, which is just unbelievable. I think Von Miller was at like a 159 for reference, and this guy is heavier than Von Miller.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But yeah, I mean, some of the guys just on the field just look like different sort of beasts. Like this one scary guy out of Arkansas. He's Landon Jackson. He had a 40.5 inch vertical, and that was the loudest point of the day. And they really don't show anything else but the 40s on the Jumbotron. And then there's like a group of like 20 people congregated around like the bench, the like 3-cone, the vertical, right, and the broad. And we just heard a guy go, "Raw!" Just let out like a war cry, and it was Landon Jackson jumping 40.5 inches in the air, and that was pretty cool to see. I just looked around, and was like, what happened?
Yeah.
Another standout of Thursday was James Pierce running the 4.45 in a hoodie. which was kind of weird. I will say he really does not look like the rest of the guys there. Like not in a great way, to be honest. Like he looked pretty thin.
Yeah.
Like definitely could put some muscle on that frame. I think he's like 245.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the standout for Thursday. And then Friday I couldn't go because I had some homework to tend to. But Friday I missed Nick Emmanwori put on an absolute
he was
clinic.
crazy.
Yeah. So this guy is another 10 RAS, I believe. And that's 100th percentile for those who are not familiar with RAS.
Yeah, I think he was like top 100. He was definitely like top 100 of safeties over the last like 30 years or something. I know I don't remember.
No, I think he was top 3. I think he was top.
Yeah,
3.
he was really high up there. Yeah, it's crazy.
So this guy's 6'3", 220. I don't think he's within Saints pick range, unfortunately. But this guy ran a 4.38 40-yard dash with a 1.49 10-yard split, and that's just unreal. And he jumped 43 inches in the air. Another guy who I kind of mentioned with the Texas defensive pass game coordinator earlier is Jahdae Barron. I think he's honestly in play for the Saints at 9, and just that familiarity with Terry Joseph. This guy has instincts for days, and I honestly did not expect him to run anything below like 4.47. He had a 4.39 official, and at 194, so he has decent size. You would have liked to see him weigh in a little more, but he's probably trying to get that 40 time down. So he's probably playing around 200-ish, maybe 198. But yeah, those are the guys that I really saw stand out, at least on the defensive end, just like absolute freak shows.
Yeah, and I checked. James Pierce Jr. was 245 at the combine, which is for a defensive end, especially for the Saints, is not good because we know they don't usually take smaller defensive ends. That's not their archetype. But that could be changing with a new regime, so maybe he's on the board at 9. We'll see. Yeah, no, I mean, like the combine, I mean, I was watching even like the running backs were like an interesting watch just at the 40s because a lot of the lesser known running backs were getting a shot to go and run, and it gave them a good opportunity. And then I'm trying to think of the other guys because I wasn't able to watch most of the days because I was working or had class.
I can talk about the offensive guys if you want.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I know receiver, one guy that I just want to talk about real quick that I saw, Tez Johnson not being able to run a sub 4.5 40, I think really, really hurt his draft stock. And then Savion Williams running a 4.48 40 really helped his draft stock. So those are two guys kind of flip-flop of size. So I'll talk about them after you go ahead and break down some of the guys.
Yeah, for sure. So at wide receiver, there were some guys that stood out for sure. One of my absolute favorite guys in this class, I think I told you about him earlier, is Jaden Higgins. I mean, this is one of my favorite players in the NFL, but on the big Jumbotron, they always put up like these ridiculous draft comps. Like they comp Shamar Stewart to Myles Garrett.
Of course.
They're comping Ashton Genty to LT, like just first ballot Hall of Famers. And like, okay, like I see the similar traits, but I think the measurements were within like a couple decimal places across like 5 different measurements for Jaden Higgins and Nico Collins, who is like, that's just always an archetype that I'll bet on. He looked like he belonged out there. Jaden Higgins did. And with over 33-inch arms at 6'4" and running at 4.47, that's elite stuff right there. Another guy who was like a height, weight, speed, or not so much weight, was Dante Thornton. Let me see if I can pull up what he ran here. Yeah, so this guy ran a 4.3 flat, and he's over 6'4.5", which is just insane. Yeah, this guy's 205 as well. Coming out of Tennessee, I don't think he was particularly productive, which is why he hasn't been getting a lot of draft buzz. But just a just a crazy athlete. And then other than that, another Iowa State guy, other than Jaden Higgins, his counterpart, Jalen Kneaux. This guy's 5'10", 194, kind of just like sleeper size, He puts up 23 reps on the bench press. And that's after everything he does on the workout.
Yeah.
23 reps on the bench press is insane. Like I've been working up to 225 for years, and I hit it like 6 months ago. And this guy's just like, oh yeah, I'm on my way out. I'm gonna just give you 23 reps at 225 at 194 pounds. And he ran a 4.39 as well, which is just absolutely ridiculous. So like the Iowa State guys just put on an absolute show.
Yeah, I mean, it's good Iowa State is like an underrepresented team. I feel like in the NFL, a lot of times you look at college football, Iowa State, for whatever reason, I feel like Iowa State always upsets a couple of teams every single season. Every single year, I feel like Iowa State is a team that has one or two upsets on their schedule where they actually finally do something, and it gets those names a little bit on the map, and it also gives them good film against good teams for their NFL draft stock. Like these teams can go in and say, hey, what do they do against these good teams, better teams, and actually see a good film. So it's good that they were able to do it at the combine too. I mean, 23 bench press reps. Yeah, it's crazy. And I remember like a couple of years when we first started the podcast, Hammer and I were talking about safeties, and there was a safety that only did 8 reps at the NFL Combine, and he got drafted in the top 2. I think it was like the top 2 or 3 rounds. I think it was Antonio John. I forgot his name. I think it was Antonio Johnson or something like that. And we were like, 8 reps is crazy, because like we were like, we could do 8 reps at that point in time. I probably can't anymore, but like that is
not me.
Yeah, like it's just a crazy thing for an NFL like safety prospect who's getting a lot of draft buzz to do. So 23 reps, that's a lot. Like that should gain him a lot of draft buzz there as well. Yeah. So for moving on from the combine standouts, what are kind of a couple of guys that you're my guys for this NFL draft?
Yeah, well, I already talked a little bit about Jaden Higgins. I mean, that guy is just ridiculous. For me, like a my guy at least has to be like a little down the board, but Omarion Hampton is just built like an absolute wrecking ball. And that guy, he could play 10 years in the NFL on a workhorse load, and it would not surprise me at all. He could go 1,000 for probably 6 seasons within his first 8 or so seasons. Would not be surprised at all. That guy just looks different. His quads are just crazy. Like some guys, I know it's like underwear Olympics or whatever, but some guys just look absolutely like insane at the combine, and just like crazy. Another one of my running backs that I like is DJ Giddens. I feel like he's one of the shiftiest players in the draft. And honestly, I didn't think he was going to run below 4.5, and he ran a 4.43, which is pretty great. That's the same speed as Travion Henderson, who everyone was saying was like one of the fastest backs in the draft. I feel like that's just like a huge stock up for him. I already mentioned Jahdae Barron a little bit, and I'll kind of get into this a little bit. Another one of my guys that I really like is Andrew Makuba from Texas, that I could see us definitely taking in the 3rd round. I think on consensus big boards, he is 93rd ranked, and we have pick 92. Either that or I'm swapping those two.
Yeah, it should be. But, yeah, it's like, I think it's 92. I'm gonna say.
Yeah. So this guy is 93rd on big boards then. And this guy, I think he's 190, but he hits like a truck. And it's just like these guys that are super athletic, super instinctive, just like tone setters on the back end. I could totally see Terry Joseph bringing in one of his guys, whether it's Jahdae Barron at 9 or Makuba more likely the 3rd.
Yeah, and you look at it, and he's a senior too, so like he has a good amount of play time already going into NFL, which is a good trait to look for in safeties. I know like a lot of time in the NFL draft, people are like, oh, he's too old. And I see like where they're coming from with those arguments sometimes if they're at a smaller school or things like that. But playing at Texas or a bigger school for that many years, you learn a lot of good traits, and I think that's something that is a positive for someone like Andrew Makuba for the NFL draft. Yeah, a couple of my guys that I really want to highlight. Or actually, before that, there was a Rutgers running back. I remember you texting me like a long time ago. Wasn't there a running back from Rutgers that you were like raving about? And just I'll just give you the floor for a second to talk about him.
Yeah, I'm like not too huge on him, but like if you want to take this guy in the sixth round to just like give him the ball at the goal line, there's almost no other back I'd rather have in this class. This guy's built like a brick shit house, like absolute bowling ball. Like you're not
Yeah.
bringing him down on the one. It's Kyle Monungai. Sorry, I didn't mention that. Uh, Not really creative at all. Can't really catch the ball at all. Pass protection is there. Is there.
So he's a
Absolute
physical
beast
guy.
in pass protection. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I just want to give you a second to mention him because I know you texted me about him a while
Yeah.
back. Yeah, a couple of my guys that I really want to mention are DJ Giddens as well. I really like him. I
Mhm.
think in the later few rounds, you can probably get him end of day 2. I think that would be where he kind of falls. Maybe early day 3. It just depends on when the running backs start really coming off the board. I like Pat Bryant from Illinois at receiver a lot in the later rounds. I think he'll probably fall to the 4th round. And one of those fourth round picks, if we don't have a receiver by then in the draft, he's another guy with the same size as T Mac, Jaden Higgins, Savion Williams, like that same kind of archetype and role, but he played at Illinois, so he wasn't as known. But he made a lot of really good plays for them last season. I think he's kind of he's the Michael Thomas comp. He's not Michael Thomas, obviously, but like that's kind of what he would be in the Saints offense, is more of a slant, kind of over the middle receiver that you can rely on to be like a possession kind of guy that can take hits and not die. Like, I mean, right now, like we see with Chris Olave, like you can rely on him to make possession catches, but he can't take the hits over the middle of the field. So he's we got to get him out of that role and move on to a new guy in the draft. So he could be that sort of guy, in my opinion.
Right.
Another
Right.
guy, another guy would be Deion Walker out of Kentucky in maybe like the 3rd, 4th rounds. Kind of see where he falls. The defensive interiors like that draft class could go really soon, or it can kind of fall a little bit. But he's like a freak of nature. I think he's 6'7". He's like the biggest guy in the defensive interior draft class, and he's just a freak. And he doesn't have a whole lot of like great tape right now, and I think he's pretty raw as a prospect. But I think he could be taken and just be a guy that the Saints could train up and be really good in the run game for Brandon Staley. And then the last guy I want to talk about is Jahad Campbell. I really like him out of Alabama. If the Saints if they go linebacker in the draft, I think it's either him really early in like the 2nd round. If he falls to you, you could possibly take him there because he's a guy that you could put at linebacker, you could put him at edge on certain plays. Like you could do whatever you want with him, and he could be all over the field. And then Siobhan Revel Jr. Is another one that I think is falling down the draft boards a little bit going into the draft because of his injury history. But I think he's a guy. The Saints took him as or did a top 30 visit with him. So they really, really like him. I'm interested to see what they think about him in the draft. I could see them taking him at pick number 40 if he falls there in the draft.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Ravel, honestly. He's like your typical press man corner.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he was going to measure in at like 6'3". I think he was listed at like 6'3" in ECU, but he measured in, I want to say just under 6'2", and like the arms were not as long as I thought they would be. But yeah, just like with the Saints, especially if guys are falling, like let's say like a massive slide on like Will Johnson happens to like 20 or something, that's when you trade up. That's when you pull the
Yeah.
trigger and be like, hey, we kind of have no direction right now. Let's just take a shot on these guys that are sliding. And that's honestly like a lot of what Howie Roseman gets praised for, is just taking the guys that are consensus top prospects, and then they just fall to him and he's just like, okay, I'm going to do the simple thing. Like the IQ bell curve meme. Like it's exactly like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
I
I think,
go ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. I cut you off.
Yeah, just like cleaning up guys that are like slipping down boards, that seems like a pretty good direction to go if I'm the Saints.
Exactly. I think for this draft, like if you can find a best player available that possibly fits on the defensive side of the ball, you got to take them. Like you need the youth on this defensive side right now. If they fall to you, just take them. Don't think twice about it. Get that guy in your locker room and train him up. I think that's the best way to go about it. With that being said, I think we could do a quick mock draft that we're going to do with PFF. So you can only do 3 rounds since I'm not paying for PFF premium. I mean, come on, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, we don't pay for that around here.
Yeah, I mean, like you can do. There's what like PFN, and there's a couple other websites where you can do some drafts. But this is probably the easiest.
Yeah.
And I think like the Saints right now at 9, there's a discussion right now of whether or not they should trade back or stay where they're at if a guy doesn't fall to them that they really like. And I could see the Saints.
Depends on who's on the board for
yeah,
sure.
like here, I'll just sim it. Like if T-Mac,
Will
Campbell,
I'm not trading back here.
Not trading back.
Not trading back here.
There's just too
you
much.
You take any of those top 4.
Yeah, there's too
any
much
of those top 4 on the board. Yeah.
I'll ask quickly, do you think Will Campbell's going to be a guard, or do you think he's going to be a tackle in the
NFL? It kind of depends on like what my offensive line looks like. If let's just say blank slate in a vacuum, right? I'm going to give him the chance to tackle. If he fails, kick him back into guard.
Mm-hmm.
What were his arms, like 32 and a half? I don't think that's like an absolute like death sentence, but like there's no. I mean, dude's on a rookie contract. It's not like you're paying him like that much money. Why don't you just kick him out of tackle, find out, and then push him back into guard if it doesn't work?
Exactly. So like for the Saints, I think the Saints would have him at guard, but I think like you said it, like if you need a tackle, like you should take him and keep him at tackle. Like at least try it out. Personally, I think the Saints would have. Right now with the roster and then the position classes, I would go Jahdae Barron here. I would go corner at 9. I know that's pretty high, but with their current corner class, like we don't have. I think Alontae needs to be moved inside. I think Yadam is a backup, truthfully. So I would go Jahdae Barron here. What do you think? Where would you go? Would you go T-Mac, Will Campbell, Jahdae Barron, or Malachi Starks?
Jahdae's a good fit. You're not going to get any pushback from me about taking him at 9. I personally have Tedero McMillan graded higher. And if you do want to move Alontae inside, I think Jahdae Barron's fit could honestly be like that Cooper DeJean, Brian Branch sort of role where you see him like almost as like a semi-safety in the nickel as well. But I don't think there's any real like wrong answer between Tedero McMillan and Jahdae Barron. And honestly, like with the connection, I would say let's break the tie and go Jahdae Barron here.
Okay, yeah, I don't mind. No, because I agree with like the T-Mac. I haven't graded very, very high, and for me, the only reason why I didn't go T-Mac there is because I feel like the receivers that we talked about, like Higgins or my guy Pat Brown, I think they'll be there in the later rounds. You could possibly get a similar role out of them and get them up there. But yeah, like if the Saints went T-Mac, I'd be more than happy, to say the least.
Right.
So at pick 40, the draft board falls to Nick Scourton or Score. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Demetrius Knight, Josh Connerly is an interesting one to fall there. And then Alik Iomanor, and then Xavier Watts. There's a good amount of players here. Even like Siobhan Revel did end up falling to 40.
I did not realize he's that low on the PFF big board now. That's pretty low.
He's been dropping. Like I've been doing like a weekly mock. He's been dropping every single, and I think it's purely because of the knee. I'm not really 100% sure, but what kind of position would you be leaning here, Ethan? What would be the position group that you'd be looking for?
I mean, here I would probably go Siobhan Revel, or I would go Nick Scourton. Again, like Nick Scourton coming into this past college season out of Purdue, maybe a little biased, but he was super productive, Big Ten sack leader. And they kind of, at Texas A&M, with both him and Shamar Stewart, honestly, I feel like they told him, like, let's beef you guys up, get you to put on like 15 pounds, and then we're gonna defend the run as well as you guys rushing the passer. And honestly, I feel like if Scourton drops back weight again, he could get back to kind of what he was at Purdue. So again, like just kind of cleaning up like this fall, or I know it says he's ranked 32 there, but last year he was seen as a top 10 talent. So I have no problem taking Scourton here, or I would probably go Revel.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I'll go Scourton here as well. I think he fell a lot in this pre-draft process. He was up really high on some people's draft boards, and he's fallen. Another position I would possibly look at if the Saints don't look to fix it up a little bit more in free agency would be like guard, maybe for the left guard spot. Maybe if if a good guard fell. I know like Gray's Abel. If he somehow fell, I think you could plug and play him. He's going to be a really good prospect. But I think with
Gray's
no,
Abel would be a home run here if he falls.
yeah, but without any of those guys here, I think Edge is a great pick. And if he falls to you at 40, I think you got to go Scourton as well.
Right.
Let's see. Next pick. So we have 71 and 93. I do like, though, that the Saints have a lot of top 100 picks in comparison to some prior years. So I'm hoping they stay and just kind of keep them all. But if they move up in Mickey Loomis fashion, I wouldn't be super angry. So here we still need a receiver.
Right.
Let's see who's on the board. So Jalen Noel, the guy you talked about, Jalen Royals, Savion Williams. Pat Bryant is going to fall like on PFF to like 150. He always does.
We didn't even talk about Isaiah Bond saying he was going to break the record. And then
Isaiah Bond. Real quick, that guy. That's clown behavior. If you believe that you're going to break a record, you got to be at least within a tenth of a tenth of a second of the record, because coming in like way far from it was rough. It was really rough to look. Even the guy on NFL Network, was that on Thursday or was that on Saturday when he ran, or was that Friday? Yeah. So you got Saturday. So you got to see that, because the NFL Network
everyone brought their phones out.
Really? Yeah.
Everyone brought their phones out, started recording, including me. I'm just like, I'll do it, whatever. You know, and then we're all just like, and in the stadium, like during the first, they don't display the times for every single one. Yeah. And people were kind of looking around like, I don't know if that was even like sub 4.3. Yeah. And then a guy like a couple rows behind me yells 4.41 or whatever it was. And I was like, no way you ran 4.41. Like you can't be doing that. Yeah. And then a couple minutes later, they show the simulcam, is that what it's called? Between him, Xavier Worthy, and Matthew Golden.
And you got blown away.
And yeah. He's pretty considerably behind those guys. And I don't know, like, the game speed is certainly there with Bond, right? But I don't know how you I'm assuming him and Matthew Golden are like training for the 40 together, maybe. I don't know, but like you gotta be like, hey, this guy might be faster than me.
Yeah. You kind of gotta like realize you're not. You realize where you're at and be like self-conscious. I don't know. It was not a good look. And even like the guys on NFL Network, like Rich Eisen was kind of like poking fun at it. Like this guy said he was gonna break the record and he ran that. Like it was a very, very bad look. So not good for him. Moving back into the draft, DJ Giddens is still on the board. He's a little bit low on PFF's radar. So a lot of these receivers, would you go? So I think the Saints go offense. If they go defense, first two picks. I think they go offense. Would you go tight end, receiver, or running back at 71?
I would probably. Who are the receivers on the board again? I do like Elijah Arroyo, tight end. I think he's like that well-rounded guy that we were talking about. That's kind of a conglomerate of everyone that we have on the roster right now. But honestly, this is tough.
It's a tough because a lot of these guys.
Those top three receivers are so different, so different.
Yeah. So for the listeners, it's Jalen Noel, Jalen Royals, and Savion Williams are going to be the top three on the board still.
Yeah. So, are there any guards falling?
Let's see. I'll pull it up. Yeah, Tate Ratledge is there. That's a guy.
Home run.
You would go Tate. Yeah. Where's he at in your guard rankings?
Let me pull them up real quick. I want to say he's 4 or 5, but like that mullet was moving in the 40s. You know,
that mullet was moving. Yeah, I like
that mullet was moving.
So you would go Tate Ratledge here.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And honestly, like Jared Wilson's not a bad pick either. But I would lock in Tate Ratledge.
Here, I'll just see. Kind of all of the running backs, receivers go. Yeah, I think like Tate Ratledge here instead of DJ Giddens or Jalen Royals or Savion Williams. I think that's kind of like the right move. And maybe like the Saints would go tight end, something like that. I wouldn't mind it. We'll go Tate Ratledge. Next pick, 93. I think that's kind of where it gets interesting. I think you got to go receiver or if Savion Williams falls here, I think that would be the move.
Yeah, I also do like Devin Neal a lot.
Yeah, okay. I haven't been able to watch a lot of his film yet. Let's see, how big is he? He's
just like your classic running back size.
Yeah, so he's like, okay, I don't mind
his
that.
Shiftiness is really his trump card.
Okay.
Kind of like in a similar mold to Giddens, but I don't think he's as fast.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all. I think running back here at the 93 is like, it depends on who's available. Obviously, like if Saints really like a guy, they're going to take him because the Saints are always kind of that way with running backs. Like they took Kendre Miller, Kamara, like in those second and third rounds, like that's kind of where they're at for running backs. So I could see the Saints going RB there. I would go. It's tough because if Pat Brown's available in the later rounds, I would wait and go. Ooh, Deion Walker's available too. That's another.
Can we look at let's look at corner here and just see who slid.
Yeah, let's see.
Because honestly, I don't feel like that'd be a bad place to go.
Dorian Strong, he's a guy that's gotten a good amount of talk. Jacob Parrish, Kobe Bryant, Kobe.
I like Kobe Bryant a lot. I will tell you, his mentality lives up to the name. I know he's 175, but that guy. If I could transplant a cornerback mind into any player, the mind I'd be taking is Kobe Bryant.
Okay, well, if he takes anything from his namesake, then that would be the mentality has to be there. Yeah, so
yeah, he plays like it.
I wouldn't mind that at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Dorian Strong here, but like the corners, there's like 6 or 7 that I think are all in about the same tier. So I would probably pass on corner there. Who were you thinking?
I'm thinking you got to go. I'd also be tempted by like Harold Fannin, but I know you're very low on him. I know you're not a.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Harold Fannin guy.
I honestly would not be upset if the Saints went Deion Walker. I think he truly would be a great pick there. At safety, the Makuba is there as well.
That would be my pick. If you want to take Walker, you can go ahead. But
that is tough.
I mean, reuniting that Texas secondary.
That's like you said, because look, let's see. So with our first pick, I think we went, Jahdae Barron, you go Makuba here, you get him back in the backfield. I think that's a slam dunk. So we'll go
tone setting playmakers on the back end.
We'll go Makuba here. Let's see how it grades out. A+. We they don't
know what they're talking about.
Yeah. See, PFF, like if you pick anyone lower than like the first 4 guys on that top list, when your pick is up, like you're gonna get a shit grade. I think
if you don't get Genty 3rd round, it's a B max.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to get like really good picks, but B+, I'm not upset with it. So for the listeners, our mock draft ended up being at 9, we got Jahdae Barron. At 40, we got Scorton. How do you pronounce his name? You got to say.
I think it's Scorton.
Scorton. At 71, we got Ratledge, and then 93 Makuba at safety. So I think that's a really pretty well-rounded class. And then you go in the later rounds, you probably go running back, tight end, receiver, anywhere in there. You kind of get one of those guys from those positions. So I don't mind that at all.
That's an A+ draft.
Yeah, I would be happy with that. And I think the biggest thing is like, as long as the Saints get talented players at the positions of need, I'm not going to be like upset. We just need starters. We need players of impact right away. So if they can get talented players like this, I think no matter what they go, I'd be happy. Anyways, that'll do it for the episode. Ethan, you got any closing thoughts kind of on this offseason so far? Or what else you want to see from the Saints in the free agency class?
Just kind of taking it as it goes. You know, it's the life of a Saints fan. Like, just trying to get back to the middle and like being able to wear my Saints stuff without people trolling me in public. So
yeah. You know, it was such a great 2 weeks at the beginning of the season because I wore my Saints jersey to campus. I was like, hell yeah, we're back in the board. We're like a top 5 team in the league, and then it crumbled. It crumbled quick.
Yeah, I may or may not have been looking at tickets to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, I think all of us Saints were like, we're in New Orleans. We might be making it.
Right.
Like, It was a wild 2 weeks because I was there in the dome for week 1, and everyone getting into the stadium's like, "We're gonna be all right, like, it's the Panthers, we're gonna win," but we didn't really expect much, and as soon as we scored the first 2 touchdowns, everyone was like, "Holy shit," like, the atmosphere was electric, everyone's like, "We're actually good, like, we're sick," and then halfway through the 4th quarter, we had to leave, but everyone in the dome was chanting, singing along, like, everyone was just having a good time, and it, like, felt like we had turned it around, so hopefully we see a full 18-week season of that this upcoming season. Unlikely,
Right.
but it would be awesome.
I have a funny story from that week 1. I was just looking at like some data and stuff like that, and this was back in right after week 1, and um, some of the data stuff that I do, you can like filter for win probability. So I
Mhm.
was like, okay, let's filter like 5 to 95%, right, for win probability. So it's like it's basically just saying like it's an actual competitive game. And I didn't realize that I had the filter on, and then I was like, why does it say that the Panthers only had 6 plays in this game?
Yeah.
So they
Dude.
had 6 plays before they had less than a 5% chance to win. I just
That
thought that was hilarious.
I'm trying to think, like, I'm pretty sure the first offensive play of the game for them, they threw the pick. I think it was the
Mhm.
first play. It was either first or second play. Um, and then we scored, and then, yeah, they had that second offensive possession, and I imagine those are those plays because
Right,
after that, the Saints scored again, and it was just they didn't take their foot off the gas, but we
right.
obviously saw what happened after week 2 and everything
Nah,
crumbled,
that's
so
fine.
anyways, I think the Saints could possibly be still a solid team this season. This offseason, I'm hoping that we bring in Mekhi Becton somehow on a contract. This free agency class would be like the last move that I would really even need because then
That'd be
you
awesome.
feel really more sure of your offensive line. You don't really need to reach for one in the draft class. You feel at least somewhat comfortable. You're like, okay, we can manage with this for this season, and then you go in the future and get draft players. But if you got Mekhi Becton, I'd be happy. I think this season, a lot of people were down at the start of the free agency class. Now we're kind of feeling like we'll be average. But if we start off like we did last season, I'll still be happy. I just want a consistent team this year. I want to stay
Get to
good.
where the Steelers are.
Yeah, get to where the Steelers are. Get us into the playoffs.
Mhm.
If you let us down there, I won't be upset. We did it. We survived from 2016 to 2021. We can do it again. Or was it
Barely.
might have been 2017. But yeah, we that was a tough that was a tough. We'll talk about that the next time we get back on a podcast, kind of what we lived through. But that was a tough time. But I'd be ready to go through that all again if it meant we made it to the playoffs.
Right.
Anyways, that'll do it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. As always, who dat? Check out all of our socials. You can see Jenks Island and check out our podcast wherever you can listen, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and comment some guys that you think the Saints should draft in this draft class. And we'll see you guys next time. It'll probably be after free agency is done, closer to the draft, and we'll do like a full mock draft, something like that. So it's great talking with you, Ethan. I'll see you next time. And who dat?
Who dat?